Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. We got a requested build. Normally I don't do combo builds, but a mommy 630 requested a Cronen Prime build for Loki, and it just so happens to be this was actually my first level cap setup. Um, so I'm just gonna share with you the build that I did the Steel Path Mott survival with. Pretty basic. It was a Riven build, but I'll explain the philosophy behind it. It was viral heat. I did have to Riven into it, but just so you see what the setup is, Conditioned Overload, Berserker Fury, Blood Rush, Weeping Wounds, Prime Reach, and the Riven has a little bit of crit damage on it. Normally, for like regular mission running, you would want to run maybe like a faction mod, or if you don't want to run faction, you would run like double crit damage. But I wanted the full set, viral heat, uh, kept the slash weighting, and shattering impact because it was a corrupted a build to deal with corrupted enemies, and I did it with this no faction mod. So let's take a look at what you would actually want for like a normal build. We'll go over to the other one. Oops. So let's build it up. We'll start from new bro friendly. Um, Sovereign Outcast, even though the polarity doesn't match, this would be one of those weapons where it would definitely be worth forming over to a specific the stance, forming the stance. On the other one, I do have a stance forma where it allows me to flip back and forth. But as of right now, I pretty much consider the Cronen Prime done. Like, I've done a level cap with it. Personally, it's not interesting. But let's go over the basic build. If you have to choose between one or the other, which you will as soon as you have both. Well, let me see if I can get rid of this. And okay, okay, it's still in frame. Never mind. This is definitely worth forming over to the Sovereign Outcast stance. Gemini Cross is a nice stance, but frankly, it just does not have the multipliers on the stance that Sovereign Outcast does. So there's definitely a correct choice in this circumstance. Gemini Cross isn't bad, but just the multipliers on Sovereign Outcast and the multi hit and the combo you can generate is just fantastic with this stance. Is it worth buying? That's up to you, Sovereign Outcast. Let me actually check what the price is currently. If it's like 5p, I would say buy it. This is definitely a farmable stance. Yeah, it's a little low for what it normally is, but currently an unranked is 7p. Let's see what the statistics are on it. Yeah, it's got a range. Maxed rank jumps up and down. Been a couple sales at 4p, 5p, um, up to 10. So if you want to spend plat on that, you're more than welcome to. It's pretty cheap, especially if it's like 5p. It's just worth at that point. It's easily worth buying the mod unranked. I wouldn't do 20p for a max rank. It's literally 3 ranks. Just get the unranked one and rank it up yourself. So let's talk about the build. It's very, very regular. We'll do the Nubro build. Base damage. We'll get all our multipliers on. Okay, so for the Nubro build, it's 4 mods. Base damage, crit chance, range, and attack speed. You have flexibility in terms of like running 60/60s. For the status, it's purely up to you. So we won't be including Prime mods with this. What I would recommend, honestly, if you are trying to maybe run like a hybrid build, is you could run like a viral setup with a little bit of slash, and all you're going to try to do is try to weight these so slash stays weighted more, because the status chance gets really, really high on this. It's almost 100%. And for a new bro build, this is going to allow you to apply lots of slash procs. It's a viral build, and this wouldn't even require you to run like the Panzer, right? If you were to have like the Panzer and you're comfortable with that applying your viral procs, which is my go-to tactic for like making sure the status procs stay like abundant, so I'm not like hyper focused on one specific one. One of the things you can do is you can just swap over to corrosive. So you see our status weighting is 700 to slash, 559 to corrosive. Um, so we're going to get a hefty bonus for having corrosive weighting as high as it is, but it's not going to be so overwhelming that when we're applying statuses, the only thing we're going to see is corrosive. It's still going to give us slash, and even then, there's slash on the stance. So it's a pretty good middle ground. We'll spawn in some nerds. So I'm seeing 900 to 7,500 slash, 4,300 slash, 96, 1,300. Yeah, give or take. That's what you can expect. The slash isn't going to go too crazy. But with the weighting from the weapon, this is going to be something if you're trying to get into Steel Path and you haven't farmed up the Deimos mods, which were the Acolyte mods, where it's the Condition Overload, Blood Rush, that sort of thing. This is a healthy middle ground. If you are missing any of these, just like say you don't have Karnas, um, downrank these, because the Karnas mod actually isn't helping you get stronger slash procs. Like when the slash dot does tick, the slash mods do not help that. It's just to help the weighting. So for something like this, we would be looking at toxin electricity, so corrosive, and we would scroll all the way to the right on our modding. By now, you should have plenty of toxin 6060 mods. They're from Vor and the Void. So just by downranking one Voltaic Strike, you might not have a bunch of these. So the corrosive is weighted less than the slash, which is good enough. And you can make up some damage by modding for another stat. You could do not fire rate, like attack speed. Do Gladiator Vice if you find the attack speed is high enough. You could do more crit damage. Gladiator Might, but this is starting to get into like bounty mods, right? Um, so if you have it, by all means, you could also just do like a quickening. Would be pretty decent. Also, just give you even more attack speed. It's not going to stack 1-to-1, so it's not going to be like doubling down on attack speed. Isn't going to be like a huge damage increase, but it's definitely going to be noticeable. So this would be like a Nubro build. All right, let's step up the modding requirements. We're going to go into Acolyte mods, which are Deimos mods. And this is very, very, very standard build territory. All right, we got our core. And we're going to have 2 mods left over. This is where personal preference is going to come down. These 6 mods for modern day builds are pretty standard. They're incredibly core. So the only really thing you could do is figure out what you want out of the build. The Kronen is a Tonfa, so it has a ton of multi-hit in the stance. It's got a ton of scaling on it. So if you were to try to self prime, I would again recommend doing corrosive just to get the additional shred, because there is going to be a notable performance increase, and corrosive is a fairly generalized stat. There really aren't too many areas where if you come across an enemy, it's going to be a bad thing to have corrosive modded onto your weapon. So for a general build, this would be something that would be very steel path viable while not entirely outweighing impact and puncture. So you're going to be RNGing additional status procs, and the Pranzer is going to be giving you viral for free. So we're going to wait for the Panzer to spit. Now we're getting orange crits. So significantly stronger weapon. The all of the Tonfas do incredibly well with the Acolyte mods. So a build like this would be something I would recommend. It's a pretty standard build, just mod for corrosive so you can get the additional shred. Some variations would be is if you're going against, say, like an index run, right? One of the things you could do is you could double down on the toxin, and one of the things I like to run is I will do shattering impact also, and I will use like the dexterity arcanes to keep my combo up, and I will run this as an index melee, right, to deal with the corpus. Toxin bypasses shields, shattering impact removes their armor. So simple philosophy. You just need to hit them enough until you burn down their armor, take something survivable. And this is a very casual Prodman run, as long as you can keep your combo up. So pretty simple. You'll bypass their shields, and until then, your Toxin and Slash will be burning down their shields. But once the armor's gone from shattering impact removing it, you'll just burn down their health with the Toxin procs. So pretty simple philosophy. It's not a perfect setup, but if this can get you to a Prodman run, it's fine. So this would be more of a corpus killer. Um, the let's talk about a couple different things. If you wanted to go like heavy against Grenier, you could then start incorporating faction mods. And on this, I would say even go double crit damage. Further boost the critical. You see right now, I'm getting 3 of the set mods for Gladiator. I have 2 on the frame, so that's where a little bit more of the oranges were coming from. But the weapon on its own will get 2 oranges. Not entirely, not 100%, but it will get you pretty far. This would be a decent setup also. If you're running Arcane Strike, Gladiator Vice to further push the crit chance higher. And if you don't like running Gladiator Might, you could maybe further weight the slash. It's got a decent slash weighting anyway, but you could get even higher weighting if you really want to just be dealing as much slash ticks as possible. This will push it even higher, give you more status chance also. But you could also at the same time just run crit damage. Or sorry, crit chance. Which would be a different setup, but throw like Sacrificial Steel in here. That's a very strong build also. It'll push you significantly higher in your crit chance, which will benefit you. And if, God forbid, you actually do run like a heavy attack build, it'll give you a nice chunky heavy attack if you're trying to burn something down. Like you would easily be able to spawn, like have an Acolyte spawn in, and with the 12x combo, heavy attack them, and if you slash tick them, you just walk away. If the slash tick procs, right? So easy peasy. It's entirely up to personal preference at this point. But the big six, they're on every build because of how these mods interact. They're incredibly powerful. Once you have these six mods, they basically go on every melee. Like there's a reason why so many of my melees have 5 forma on them. It's because it's these mods right here are always on it, and then I just won't forma the berserker spot, and then I'll have 2 flex slots. And if I need more capacity, or I'm going for a longer run, or I think I'm going to do steel path, and I might be doing a couple rotation C's, where it's like a 40-minute, 6-minute run, and I just want to feel more comfortable. Um, I'll throw a faction mod on if I think I'm doing that. Especially if it's like a steel path relic survival. But the big ones are these. These are just going to go on every melee build you do once you get these mods. Um, and if you're doing a slash weighted weapon, gladiator might be as well be on here also. And then you just swap out faction mods if the weapon is slash weighted. All right, let's talk about the Loki build. This was the build that I ran the level cap with. Pretty basic setup. You're maximizing for duration. It was a survival setup, so I was not worried about armor strip per se, because it was Steel Path Mott for Corrupted, right? Um, so I just went for more crit chance, and I was going to rely on Shattering Impact for being my armor strip, because the fact is that if you look at like the level 1 armor values, the older units have significantly lower armor values than the newer units coming in. So things like Shattering Impact, which is a very, very, very powerful mod, is way more effective earlier in the star chart and for older content. Where, say, like the Exos, for example, and you can see what the level 1 armor values are here. So, okay, we'll do in a unit. There's a reason why I use this. If you see the ferrite armor where it says 1,000, that's how much armor it has at level 1. Okay, 1,000. Now let's look at Orokin. Corrupted Heavy Gunner. Okay, so Corrupted Heavy Gunner Eximus is half as strong as the Exo Gokstad officer. Obviously, these guys are going to spawn way more, but this used to be the toughest enemy in the game for the longest time, and it has half the armor of the Exos. Then you go up to the Corrupted Bombard Eximus. 500 is the base armor. Well, with as much multi-hit as you have, so let's look at the stance. We'll bring up a quick calculator. Corrupted Bombard Eximus. Come on. Okay, so it has base 500, right? We pulled up the same unit. Base 500. And we'll bring up the stance for Sovereign Outcast. Okay, so here's the stance for Sovereign Outcast, right? And what we're looking for is multi-hit. So the neutral stance, just literally standing and attacking, has a 5-hit, 6-hit combo on the first hit, right? It's 6 instances of damage. The next one is 3, the next one is 4, the next one is 2. So we have 6 plus 3 plus 4 plus 2, right? 15. Now what we got to do is we'll get rid of that. Look at Shattering. is 6 damage, right? It is 6 base armor stripped. So if we have 15 instances of damage, and then we multiply it by 6, because every time an instance of damage gets dealt, it removes 6 base armor. So is 90. If we go back and check what its base 1 armor value is, it's 500, but let's just double check. Okay, there we go. All we have to do is 500 divided by 90. And in 5.5 hits of the full rotation, even if you're not dealing damage due to fall off, if this guy is in the group and you are just dealing instances of damage to him, you will still shred. Okay? So 5.5 hits. You just have to have impact on the weapon. I think there's an issue with the rapiers, even though there's impact on them, where it doesn't work, but this definitely works with the Kronen. So in 5.5 rotations of your melee attack, you will completely strip this guy down to 0. And as the armor is being stripped, you will be scaling your damage because the enemy will be getting weaker and weaker. So even if this guy has a shit ton of armor because of the scaling, you're shredding armor based on its level 1 value. So the amount of time it takes to completely strip an enemy doesn't change. Which is why when I did the level cap run, because I was relying on strip so much, I wanted the armor strip because I was getting damage boosts from other sources. So I wanted the raw damage scaling. So I would start hitting them, and at the very, very end, I would start hitting the enemy when they were at like 10k, and I was literally doing like 20, 30 damage. And then I'd auto a big group of them because I had so much range on the build, and because it's the Kronen and you have the throws and everything. The damage would grow incredibly fast because of the strip. Now, if I were to do it, I would probably go faction, and because strip is so easily attainable now, I probably wouldn't go with this build because it's literally you're a Theros strike or a Terrify away from the enemies not really having resistances. Well, Theros strike would give you defense strip, Terrify would give you armor strip. So you would want Theros strike against corrupted, unless for whatever reason you wanted to run a 400 power strength Loki. Or what would that be? Times 4. A 344% strength Hildren, right? So this was what I did the build with, and this was the philosophy behind it. And more importantly, it destroyed Acolytes because it had viral on it. If they don't have armor, they're weak to viral because it's health damage. They're going to take the boosted damage. So it is what it is. But this was the philosophy behind the build. There's a couple different variations. Just make sure you have these 6 mods on. If you're getting used to it, there's a couple of slight variations in modding. Like Drifting Contact, if you have these 6 mods, but you're starting out Steel Path, Drifting Contact is a good option to keep your combo up. And you can even, to help out more, this is, do not forma for this, this is going to be something you're taking off. But you can throw Carnus Mandible on there to push your slash weighting a little higher. It doesn't matter that much percentage-wise. But more importantly, it gives you base status chance so you can get those ticks going a little bit faster. And it'll help you out a little bit. Like, obviously, the 34% status chance boost is still going to be there once Weeping gets scaled up. But Weeping's scaling off of 34 also, so technically it's not ideal. But if you're just figuring out the weapon, figuring out how you like it, just make sure to form a Condition Overload, Blood Rush, Reach, Organ Shatter, and weeping, and it's kind of hard to mess up the Kronen. Okay, Loki build time. This was basically a stealth build, as all things should be. Um, you have plenty of spots for a helmet should you want to run one. Um, I did not use a helmet because it didn't exist when I did the survival. But invisibility, we're just building for duration. Narrow minded, prime continuity, rolling guard because of, Noxes and um, like fire AoEs and like Eximus effects. Got to be able to cleanse statuses. Equilibrium and flow just for energy management. I wanted to be nice and healthy for as long as possible, energy wise, and like the old energy leech aura, you couldn't see it. And one of the things I wanted is like because it was like my first level cap and like I was a little nervous, right? Is there's no sound with the old aura. Like if you're hitting stuff, if there was, I never heard it. There might be, but the new one where you can clearly see something is draining your energy didn't really exist before. The Eximus enemy would walk in, it would have the energy leech aura, and I was using equilibrium to let me know audibly that there was a that guy was near me and I had to do something about it. Because we were running, it was me and another guy, we were running uh more or less like a dual camp setup. Like we weren't really camping, but we sort of had like our own rooms and they were adjacent. And we would move back and forth between these two really high spawn rate rooms, just because of how we got it to work out. Um, and if an energy leech came nearby, equilibrium, you would immediately start hearing the energy chug from the energy on the ground because Loki is a duration based frame. Like there isn't too much that you really need to spam unless you're doing like a decoy build, right? Um, or sorry, switch teleport with which one? Yeah, this one, safeguard switch. It would be that would be more spammable because you would be using that for iframes. But when an energy eximus would come nearby, because I was so dependent on keeping my energy up, there were times because the auras would get nearby, you would kill one, but you would still be losing energy because there was another one nearby. I really wanted the audible cue of hearing the energy drain. You could hear it, and I would go, "Oh shit!" and I'd be invisible. Jump up, see where the guy is, and I'd go kill him. And that would be how I was dealing with it. Obviously, I've done more level caps since then. I don't really need this now, and especially because of the new Eximus, you can clearly see when there's the big blue thing under you. But that used to not be the way it was. So grain of thought, equilibrium is really strong, especially now that there's like panzers in the game. Um, it's a lot easier to keep your energy up and deal with leeches. Prime flow, just a comfort pick. Uh, to be honest, I don't think I really needed it, and I don't think I needed energize. Like if I went with a setup now, it would be the Panzer Pet with just equilibrium. I don't think I would want prime flow, and I'd use it for like another glad mod or something, or I don't know, more duration because there wasn't the helmet system back then. Arcane Strike is pretty straightforward. Attack speed on the melee for the Cronen build, pretty basic. I think you could easily get away with without Arcane Energize, um, and maybe do like a Fury, or just throw whatever the hell you want here. You basically have a free Arcane slot. Uh, if you're short, because Energize is obscenely expensive. One of the things you could possibly do is take the magnetic one, the one that prevents magnetic procs, nullifier. Um, and this gets rid of the energy drain. I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since I've used this because it counts as a magnetic proc to drain your energy. This can deal with it. Because the bad thing about like the magnetic procs is it really hurts your shield regen. And you might be reliant on that, even though we're not using an auger set build. You're still going to have it on your secondary, and you should be using it just as like a standard, right? Like free shield gating, at least something is like a panic button. It helps out a ton. So if you want energize, use energize. If you don't have energize, magnetic would be appropriate for like a longer run because the Eximus auras themselves start becoming like super oppressive. You could also take like a, let's see what else we got. Guardian would be okay for like regular running. Grace is a safe pick. Fury would be really good also on critical hit, 60% chance for 180 melee damage. Obviously, that's pretty solid. If you're doing infested, arcane resistance is really good. Like you kind of need a reason not to run that. Um, you really don't need strength, so it's up to you. You could even do efficiency. If it multi-efficiency would probably be a pretty standard go-to option because when you recast, you'll get the benefit of the additional duration on your abilities, and that one's farmable. You don't have to get the energize from Eidolons because it looks like they're not doing events for a while that allow you to get arcanes. So this is the expensive one. You can run other things. Just find something you have. There are lots of farmable arcanes now that are really strong. So you don't need arcane energize, especially with the Panzer and the synth set combo on the Equilibrium. So anyway, I hope this helps. I was able to talk a little bit more about this amount in Anami Inami 630. I hope this helps. It was you asked for the combo. It's something I've done before and I did a level cap with. And also the gladiator set is literally just here for the additional crit chance. So there's a couple variations. I hope that helps, dude. Take it easy. Y'all have a blessed day. I hope this helps. Take it easy.